Today marks the one-year anniversary of the Israel-Hamas war, a conflict that began on October 7, 2023, following a devastating attack by Hamas militants on Israeli soil. The war has left a lasting impact on both Israelis and Palestinians, with thousands of lives lost and communities still reeling from the destruction. Earlier, Arise News spoke to the Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Michael Freeman, as well as the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, Abdullah Abu Shawash. Here is what they had to say.
Today is 1 year since the October 7th massacres, 1 year since thousands of Hamas terrorists came across the border into Israel and massacred, raped, tortured, butchered, burnt alive Israeli citizens and kidnapped 250 of them and took them back into Gaza. Since then, Israel has launched an attack on Hamas in order to retrieve those hostages, in order to ensure that this can never happen again. You know, last night, Hamas released a statement on the 1 year anniversary saying they are proud of what they did, saying that they consider it a great success, that they consider everything that's happened since a great success, and they're proud of what they did. So I think that we need to remember that when we sit here today, that we are talking about the 1,200 innocent souls that were murdered in their homes or at a dance party for doing nothing other than being Israelis.
This is not conflict. This is a war launched against the Palestinian people a long time ago. This war was started November 2nd, 1917, when the United Kingdom issued the notorious despicable Balfour Declaration. In this declaration, the United Kingdom, who have nothing, no right over the Palestinian land, promised the Khazarian Jew, the European Jew, of giving or gifting the Khazarian Jew our historical land of Palestine. This war was launched again long time ago when the Israeli gangs, the Jewish gangs in 1948 expelled the Palestinian people and turning them to become a refugee. This war continued and of course built Israel on 78% of the historical land of Palestine. Again, this war continued when Israel was succeeded to occupy the remaining part, 22% of the historical land of Palestine. I mean, West Bank, including East Jerusalem, of course, and Gaza, beside, of course, the Golan Heights.
I have a guest commentator with me for the rest of the program who will be giving his thoughts on the news and issues of the day. He is the current affairs analyst and professor of communications at Beige University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Good evening, Constance.
You heard what the ambassador said, but before we get to that, a lot of confusion, you know, with the local government elections going on. Let's start with Rivers. Your thoughts. You heard what our guest said.
I'm not sure there were elections in those states. There was just the opposite number of what Fela Nicola Kuti told us about army arrangement. What we are having in those states looks like civilian arrangement, a kind of understanding, you know, propelled or led by the one at the levers of power, the governors, you know, or the ruling party. And of course, it's probably why we do not have observers, you know, independent observers taking interest in those elections, because the outcome is almost always predictable. You know, all the regular processes that attend the national elections or even state elections, governorship election that is, are never followed, you know. So it's just something that is predetermined, a kind of orchestration, you know, determined by the powers that be in government houses on who they want to control the councils. And this is very unfortunate because it just tells us that we are still concerned about ego, about acquisition of power, you know, about the end justifying the means, and not minding the process that lead to that end, as the case could be.
But it wasn't always this way. I mean, in the past few years, we did have a variety of different parties winning local government elections. What, in your estimation, happened?
It's really very unfortunate. On the one hand, we can say that we are having a declining, a deteriorating process, management of the process, you know, process management is rather declining, deteriorating, and it's not very unfortunate for our democracy, because if we can have a semblance of sanity, a semblance of ideal process at the national level, irrespective of the controversies, some level of a semblance of ideal process, even if it is pretentious at the state level when we want to elect governor, then of course we should see a replication of those at the state level, at the local government level, in a case where governors are the charge. But at those levels, we are having a situation where, you know, those who win, those who emerge at the end of the day, are simply those that the governor prefer. Most of the governors, none of them is actually innocent in this regard. And of course, it doesn't speak well of our democracy. It just means that they're not interested in the process, in due diligence, in due paying due regard, you know, to the protocols, you know, that govern an ideal election.
Right. You know, it is really a sad reflection of the state of things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will agree with you. What does this mean then for this so-called democracy? What are the implications of this one-party trend that we are seeing?
I think we're just picking and choosing. You know, we're picking and choosing. We're paying lip service to the ideals, to the values, the virtues that govern the proper democratic process, you know, because sometimes we embrace indecent behavior. And of course, I remember what my Lord Bishop Kuka once said, that our sense of right and wrong, especially in the electionary process, is circumscribed in the circumstance in which we find ourselves. You know, there's no broad line between right and wrong anymore. It's just about what you want. And it's not a question of what is wrong or what is right. What is wrong or what is right is determined by the circumstances in which you find yourself. In the case of the local government elections now, look at the case of Rivers. You know, he's been hailed in circles, you know, for backing a different party apart from his own. And of course, another major party, they were literally, probably, or allegedly excluded from the party. And of course, the party he supported won in parentheses, almost the entire council seats, you know. It looks nonsensical, it's not realistic, and something that is clearly teleguided. But again, it's not alone, even in Benue, even in Anambra, with all due respect to the governor there. And of course, there's another state, even Akwa Ibom. Okay, we have the party that the governor belongs to winning all the elections at the council. So he's just telling us something that can be too good to be true, that there's no difference in those states. You know, nobody has a differing opinion. You know, that the fellows there, or the voters, the citizens, are ideologically homogeneous, which is practically not realistic. It just beggars belief. And,
right.
And you want to actually highlight that as a downside of our democracy.
So, one more question on the politics. You are concerned, like a lot of Nigerians. The National Assembly is concerned, so they have introduced this bill to have a national body conduct local government elections. Do you believe that's the solution?
Well, the fact that they are taking action simply means that the matter is becoming worrisome. And of course, it may not be the solution, but of course, it's simply an indication of the need for us to pay attention to this trend, because if it continues, it's just ridiculing the electoral process, you know, the electioneering process at a critical level, you know, like the local government, because we have made the point severally, and the Supreme Court also emphasized that local government deserve autonomy, and we know the role of local governments across the world. In the Americas, largely, they are called counties, if I'm not mistaken. In Nordic Scandinavia countries, they are called communes, and of course, in the UK, they are called councils. And sometimes when you live in these councils, you hardly bother about what is happening at the center, you know, because of the efficiency of these levels of government that are closest, this type of government that are closest to the people. And you appreciate them, you know, because, of course, if we have it working fine in this country, the level of deindustrialization that we have, leading to banditry, armed robbery, kidnapping, and all sorts of crime at those local levels probably be mitigated, if not eliminated. So
you listen to the two ambassadors, ambassador of Palestine to Nigeria and that of Israel to Nigeria, both, you know, talking their positions, and that's why the conflict has continued 1 year today. What are your thoughts on what's going on? It actually has expanded.
Yeah, I think the crisis in the Middle East has put the world in sixes and sevens, something that has remained intractable over the years in the situation. And of course, it might likely continue because we have a situation where we have two warring factions, and none of the factions or the groups are not interested in negotiation. They are not interested in a peaceful resolution. The world has severally been talking about two-country solution, two-state solutions, and it doesn't appear as if either party are interested in it. Each time a move is made, one party, raise some kind of obstacles that prevent the realization of this two-country solution. It's something that's likely to continue, except again, the third parties intervening, the West on the side of the Israelis, and of course, Hezbollah, not Hezbollah at this time, Iran particularly, and the Arab nations on the side of Hamas, the Palestinians, as the case could be, can probably be stronger in projecting the importance of peace, to the warring parties, so that we can have a mutual, prevent discontinuous mutual annihilation, and of course, eventual resolution of the crisis.
Professor Adeniyi, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Primetime. Do join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, it's goodbye and thank you for watching.